I'm full of them today. I managed to remember all the fucking trivia. I generally don't remember anything. But the chase scene through the forest or through the woods or whatever, the bloke could run faster than the woman.
Oh no.
So basically, what he had to do to make it look like he was slower is he was doing random shit. It's like he cuts down the branches, and that's all ad libbed because he was faster than the one running.
Really? That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So
They
he
just
was.
told him to slow down.
So yeah, there's a bit where there's a tree branch, and he kind of does. It's a bit odd because he doesn't go down. He just kind of goes like, and then carries on. But yeah, he could run faster than the one, which is pretty crazy. Yeah. So Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yeah, it's quite a film. And I can imagine for the time it was like the most shocking thing, even though you'd seen Psycho. But with this, it was so visceral.
Mm.
It was, I think that's the thing that's so great about it. It seems it's like a real thing. It's like with Psycho, there's bits of it that are not so. It's got like the voiceover stuff, and it's got like the exposition where it kind of pops around. Whereas this is literally continually. It's like a day in the life story. It's we're on a road trip. Oh, we're going to this thing. We're going to the
We're in a
cemetery.
boat.
Because there's a lot of and like the exposition in it, like when they're telling you the story is through radio clips,
Mm.
which is really fucking cool.
That's quite interesting. Yeah, I do. I do remember that being quite cool.
Because they tell you on the news, oh yeah, there's been grave robbing and people have been making like weird sculptures, and like they found these body parts, and then when they tell you all this stuff, then they go to the graveyard. So it's a clever way of kind of storytelling without having the narrator go, and there was a dead person, or having someone literally say it in the film, like, oh, like, they do the cop says, oh, we just found two dead people in a thing, blah, blah, blah. And they're kind of explaining the story, which is a bit shit as a way of progressing a story or telling a story. When you've got someone literally telling you the whole thing as a monologue, it's just like, yeah, that's lazy.
But I think that's one of the things that's really good about it is like the way that it starts with that scroll,
Oh yeah,
and then it's sort of like it's basically positioned as if it's a documentary. And for the first, like, I don't know, maybe like half, basically until they go to the garage, really. Like you can watch it as if this is like found footage kind of thing. Not found footage, but sort of like you can watch it as if this is just like a bunch of kids who are actually doing this.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's yeah, it's just set up really, really well. And I think, like you said, at the time in 1974, given that everything that came before this would have been like fairly tame, and like if it was a horror, it would have been, sort of like maybe not so close to something that could happen in real life. Like it, yeah. And also before the internet as well. So like where they've packaged it as a real thing, you would have had people walking around thinking like, "Oh man, thank God I wasn't in Texas on August the 18th." Like
exactly. It's and I think they sold the film as that as well. Like on the posters, it's like the most terrifying true story that's ever happened, which it was complete bullshit. But I understand why they did it, because it was kind of based on a true story.
Well, I think like with these kind of things, like the more that you can suspend your disbelief, the better a horror film is going to be. So
yeah,
I don't know. I'm quite happy to buy into things like that for that reason. Like it's.
Well, yeah, because it could. I just always like when I was watching it, I was thinking to myself, if I was in the situation of going to see the film in that time period. So like Psycho, imagine going to the cinema and you've never seen anything like it before, and you see it, you're like, what the fuck just happened? And you're like, what? It's the same with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like the start of the film when you see the fucking corpse head, and you're just like, what the fuck? And it kind of peaks at that point. You're like, what? And then nothing really happens, and then it kind of slowly builds and builds, and then he just arrives on the scene. And you're just like, what the fuck? Because that was the problem I had, because I'd seen it before. It didn't have that kind of effect. Whereas if I'd have not known anything about it and I watched it, I would have been like, what the fuck?
Mm.
But yeah, like there's the drunk guy in the start where he actually does a bit of exposition, which is it's all right, because he's kind of telling a ghost story in a matter of fact way. He's not kind of going, oh, this is how the story's gonna start and blah blah blah, and this is blah, blah. Whereas, as I said, the newsreel, it does all that for you, which is really cool, because it's, unless you're paying attention, you wouldn't really notice. And it's because I think at the very start it's on like a TV broadcast.
Yeah.
And then when they're in the van, it's a radio broadcast. And they're kind of telling you all these grim things are happening. And yeah, it's just it sets itself up so well.
I think the thing that I love about it is just like, I think Leatherface is a really interesting character, because he's not like Norman Bates. Like, he doesn't have that kind of like sort of evil in him. Like, he's not killing people for sort of any other reason than just that that's what he knows. Like, he's grown up sort of butchering animals by hitting them in the head and killing them, and then that extends to humans for him because he also eats humans. Like, it's it's still a pretty, like, it's a messed up thing to do, but like you can kind of sympathize with him, because like he because of his background, he doesn't make that distinction between humans and animals, because they're both meat to him. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, because I think also the film tells you the backstory without actually telling you it. It's like the fact of all the cars are sitting there, and they're like, "Why is this?" They kind of come across the cars and they don't really understand why there's cars there. And then you think about like and as it goes on, you got like the human meat and the bits of dead people all around the house. It's kind of like it tells the story without actually telling you, which is always a great thing. Because the problem with some films is they kind of and it's what's the problem with the remakes is that they have to tell you every detail about why this person's like they are.
Yeah, they have to give backstory and everything, and it's like that's not always necessary, is it?
It's like if you watch the beginning, which is the prequel, the reason why he uses the chainsaw in the original or in the remakes is basically he gets goaded by the bloke, the bloke that's the gas station attendant. I think he's his adopted dad or something, and basically goads him on to say like use the chainsaw to kill the person. It doesn't need that. Like in the film, he has the chainsaw and just goes, "Okay, I'm going to pick this up."
Yeah, it just is.
You don't really need to explain things, like the fact of him having a face, like the leather, the human face mask. It's kind of, you don't really need to explain that he's got a fucked up face and he just wears the mask so he looks different. It's a bit like, because he's got more of a child's mind, you think kids wear masks, like,
yeah, that's if he's got all these things around him, he's going to use one of them to be a mask.
Yeah. It's like the fact that when you get to the end scene, when they're in the having the meal, he's actually got lipstick. He's like put makeup on the face.
He's almost in drag at that point.
Yeah, it's kind of, he's dressed up.
I think it's Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, where his face is always like that. Let me have a look. He's got like kind of like, yeah, almost like it's basically like a clown face.
Isn't what's the name in it? It was in Bridget Jones's Diary. Renee Zellweger.
Is she?
She's in one of the Texas Chainsaw films.
I don't know.
Bridget Jones's Leatherface.
This is the one. Let me share my screen. Oh, I can't get like a. Oh, actually, I've got a GIF of it. That might work.
Yeah, she's in The Next Generation.
Really?
Is she really?
Yeah, she's in. Yeah, with Matthew McConaughey. It's one of them. It's one of them total dog shit ones.
So, am I right thinking that the only good Texas Chainsaw was the second one? The sequel, I mean.
Yeah, I can't think of any other. Well, I mean, 4 was kind of funny.
But the remake and the prequel are bad.
Yeah, 4. 4 is the New Generation. That's the one with.
I didn't realise Renee Zellweger was in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the Leatherface from 4.
Because 4 is a woman, isn't it?
There you go.
It's supposed to look like a woman.
That's...
Oh.
Where did you post it?
No, I've just shared my screen.
Oh yeah, that's the.
It's Michael Jackson gone wrong.
It's
Yeah,
pretty awful.
I'm sure that's the New Generation one. Oh, I'm on it. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's like any horror franchise, really. Like it's just
excuse me.
one of them made money, and then they just kept trying to squeeze as much as they could out of it.
I mean, like how they are doing with everything now.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
Money. Is Shane McMahon involved in it all then?
At first I thought you said it's a shame that Matt ain't involved in it. I was like, oh.
Oh my god, that looks really shit.
I had a weird experience with this film because, like, I really enjoyed it, but I felt that Leatherface was a pretty crap villain.
Oh, that's not fair.
I didn't get from him that I got with like Freddy or Jason or Michael Myers, where there was a feeling of dread about them. Like with Freddy, it was like being afraid to go to sleep. With Michael Myers and Jason, it was more being afraid of the area that they were in. They knew they were always sort of looking over their shoulder.
You never wanted to go camping because of Friday the 13th.
Well, I've only been camping once, and it was with you guys, and I didn't feel that feeling then, so it's fine.
Wait, when was that? No, you've been camping a few times with us.
Well, apart from your back garden and download, I've never been camping.
And Alex Garden.
Huh?
And Alex Garden.
Yeah, I suppose there's a feeling of dread when you get dragged out of your tent mid-sleep.
I don't know. It's funny because I felt like the film, when you see him, he's quite terrifying, and then when you get to the end, he's kind of a bit whimsical because he's basically like a dog. He's kind of treated like a dog, and he kind of whimpers, and when he's in that family situation, they treat him really nasty. So it's kind of I can understand why you'd think that, Pat, but I think it's because they make him into that kind of he's like a child, but it's a bit like Jason as well. Jason's got that kind of child mentality where he's got this idea of he's going to kill everyone if they do, like if they come near his area, or he's just a psycho.
I suppose like Jason is Leatherface without the control. So like Jason is sort of, his emotions are sort of dictated from sort of his mum, but he's got no one there controlling him. So basically anyone that he can butcher, he'll butcher, and not have anyone to tell him otherwise. Whereas Leatherface has his family sort of dictating when and where he attacks. Yeah,
definitely.
But my favourite scene is the first time that we actually properly see him.
Yeah, that's an awesome scene.
Because
The use of sound in that scene is perfect.
it's the case of the bloke runs in and he sort of slips up the ramp and then gets doink. That bit just sort of caught me by surprise.
He just slides into thing and just smacks him one.
It felt very slapstick, but it was wonderful.
But I think one of the things that's like great about it though is like having him as like a chainsaw building like Psycho is just perfect because they almost use like a sound as if it's like a punk song where you've got that kind of like barrier of just like pure kind of like abrasive sound. Like it's so cool. Like the scene where like the door swings open and then it's just like it's literally like boom, and it's just it's so I don't know, man. You could close your eyes and it'd be just as scary.
The thing I really like about this is I feel like the writing is probably better than most other slashers.
You think?
Yeah, I really like this. I mean, slashers generally have a limited story quality, I suppose, but I just like the way that this one was sort of structured.
There's only one bit that lets down the writing for me, and that's it's just before Thingy gets away, and she's doing that thing where she stops the truck and then gets in the truck and gets out of the truck and like that kind of thing. Like I don't know, it started looking a bit slapstick. And there's so many points where I was like, oh, I don't know, if he really wanted to get her, he could have.
I think that's one of my biggest issues with the film is that sadly it kind of like paves the way to all the slashers that followed with all these teenagers making these stupid decisions. It's like, well, they keep going off on their own trying to look for someone, and obviously they die, and then there's the next person tries to find the last person, they die, so the next person after that finds the next person, they die. And even though she did a lot of smart things throughout the film, at the same time she did a lot of stupid things, and the fact that jumping out the window, a smart idea, running out the house and screaming, that's not as smart, because obviously he's going to find her by hearing her just running and screaming into the wilderness. And obviously some things you can't help because of obviously she's being chased by a crazy madman with a chainsaw, so you have to give her the benefit of the doubt. But at the same time, it's like you said with the in the truck, it's like she's on the truck, that's good, like quick, just push the accelerator down, let's get out of here. But no, they don't do that. They stop the truck, and the guy in the truck gets out and wonders what's going on, and neither of them actually go back into the truck, and so she has to wave down another car. So those sort of silly bits are a bit
convenient.
Take you out a bit, yeah.
Thankfully, I was going to say that's actually quite a great scene when he gets out of the truck, because
it is fun though.
Because of the angle, you see him stop. He gets out to look, and then she comes around the corner, and he's like, "Okay." And then Leatherface comes out the corner, and he goes like, "What the fuck?" And he runs off.
Yeah, I think
it works really well because you know what's going to come.
Yeah,
like in the rest of the film, you know what's going to happen, and the fucking bloke doesn't.
Yeah, I do think that's clever, but I think it could have been better in the regards of that. I think he should have killed the truck driver outright, so there's been no question of her even escaping from him in that regard. I mean, the big 18-wheeler truck. I mean, just because it seems silly that he's out the truck, she's out the truck, he goes out to have a look, and then that happens, and then she waves down another car to get away.
Actually, that's a good point, because they have this conversation in the house about make sure that they're dead because they don't want any witnesses. So why didn't he? What happens to the
he just runs off down the side of them.
Does he just run away?
Yeah.
I think about it, they might have killed him off.
Whether or not that actually happened in real life is another thing, but that's one thing I wanted to ask, is this film, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the closest account of the actual crimes of Ed Gein?
Not the chainsaw bit.
No.
so
because
what I was going to do the comparison between the two films.
Oh yeah.
because well, if we talk about Texas Chainsaw Massacre, if Platt doesn't fall asleep, then at
I'm
the
still
end-
here. I'm still here.
at the end,
Right.
I'll tell you the differences, like what bits have been taken from the actual true story or true events. So yeah, like one of my favorite scenes in the film, and it's because I was getting a little bit bored of the film, and then this fucking thing happens. I'm like, what the fuck? And it's the bit where they're talking about, oh, we're gonna get in the van. Like they're beeping the thing, and again, oh, where are they? And they're in the pitch black, and they've got no petrol, but they've got the lights on, wasting their battery. And I'm just like, okay, this is a bit stupid. And they're like, oh, we're gonna go and find them. And that scene goes on so long, and I'm just like, I'm getting a bit bored now. And then they decide to go off together. And I'm like, you're taking a bloke in a wheelchair through forest, woodland. Oh God. So they go through, and as they get halfway through, fucking Leatherface just jumps out and attacks him with a chainsaw, and he's hitting him. I was just like, what the fuck? I think that's such a great scene because you're so kind of like, it's calmed down now, so nothing's really happening, and then that happens. So it just literally just spikes you. You're adrenaline, like, what the fuck? But then yeah, and then that spawns her screaming for like 20 minutes of the film.
Mm.
Yeah, she runs screaming, goes in the house, screams, runs away screaming, gets knocked out. Oh yeah, the like the actual the look of the film was pretty grim as well. Like the fact that she gets her hands tied to the arms on the chair, and they're actual people's arms. Ooh.
Yeah, that was tough to watch.
But as I said, it felt so real because a lot of films, if you watch a lot of slashes, they get a bit silly now. Like it's always a bit supernatural, like people being really strong when they shouldn't really be strong.
Yeah.
But like the fact, like you go in the house and you got all these fucking bits of people and weird shit, and it's just like, oh, imagine being in that situation where you're on the floor and it's full of shit and dirt and whatever, and there's bits of people, and it's just so visceral in the because someone reckons they put on their like top 100 films, it was number one as scariest film. And I'm like, I don't know if I'd call it scary. But
well, I think the only reason it sort of falls down a little bit there is it's a little bit like Jaws. And it's like, well, I can kind of get over this being scary because the only thing I need to do to avoid it happening is I just need to like not go to somebody else's house and break in.
Yeah,
it's like it's a no-brainer, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not like the evil comes to them; they go to the evil.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though the bloke says to him, "Don't go where you shouldn't be going."
Yeah,
the
Yeah,
bloke,
that's true.
the semi-normal one out of the family.
Well, the one who appears normal at first.
Yeah, he's somewhat normal. He's a bit more like logical.
To a degree.
But he says to him, like, you shouldn't go like around people. You shouldn't go to the house because people around here don't like being pried on or whatever, and they still go there.
Yeah.
But
well, they like literally go into the house and then like the door swings open and they get like bludgeoned, and it's like, well, you shouldn't trespass. I'm not saying you should have died for it, but you shouldn't have done it.
You've been warned. To be honest, if you're in that situation, like personally, if you're in that situation, I wouldn't have fucking gone anywhere. After meeting that bloke, I'd have just gone, get that.
Yeah, that's like, just keep driving.
Just fucking keep driving, don't stop.
Yeah.
Or get barbecue.
Mm-hmm.
I like, that's the great bit about the barbecue scene. He spit that bit, go.
Oh yeah, what was he having? He's like a big old chode in his mouth. What was it?
I think it was a big sausage.
Yeah.
But the thing
big
is,
old sausage.
Because I knew of the background of the film, I knew that it was going to be human meat because
It's going to be
obvious. But
big on
then
dogs.
that's another one of my favorite scenes is when she finds out that it's human meat in the barbecue bit,
Mm.
and it's just like you see her face and she doesn't react. She just like it's like having a minute breakdown. She's like, "What the fuck?" Which is so great because I'd say her character is probably the best, even though she screams for like solid 20 minutes. But
It's so effective though. Like, I mean, it's a bit annoying, but I don't know. It's that thing that I was saying earlier about like sound being abrasive because like I was watching it upstairs and I was just thinking like, man, I really need to turn this down because people are going to be thinking I'm watching all sorts of things like this.
I was watching it at like 11 o'clock last night downstairs on the telly. I was literally had it full volume, but yeah, just the fact that she just screams. But I think
Yeah.
what kind of made me laugh at the end is because they're acting so kind of normal. But they're not normal, but you understand. Like they're having a family argument, and she's standing there sitting there screaming because they're fucking cannibal psychos, and she's just screaming like, "Fuck," like such a fucking horrible situation, and they're having a fucking domestic. It's just so the contrast in that scene is so like whimsical in some way, but it's like your brain just kind of can't comprehend. Like, fuck me, this is. Oh yeah, I don't know why I found it funny, but it's just so absurd. In the like the fact that when they cut her finger and put it in the grandpa's mouth,
Mm.
it's like
Yeah.
surprise you, if people believe this was a real thing, they'd think it's a snuff movie
Yeah.
Yeah.
because
It
it's
is
that kind of realistic in some way. But yeah, it's just there's so many bits to it. Just yeah, I think I like it because it's so visceral. It's not kind of packing like it's not tame in any way, even though they don't show you bits.
Mm.
And it's probably because of the budget.
Yeah, you're probably right there.
Because like the fact of when you see something that's implied is more effective than if you just go, look, he's cutting someone up with a chainsaw and you've got like a fake arm that falls off. Whereas him just going like, you know what he's doing, you just don't really, yeah, it doesn't need it because it's already a fucking horrific sight to be seen. You just don't need to be shown the full thing, which is really clever. Yeah. I was actually interested to see what Alec thought of it.
He hated it.
Yeah, I don't think he thought a lot of it.
No, I just wanted to know why he didn't
Contrivances.
like it. I knew because when I pick these films, I always think like, yeah, they're not gonna like this. Like the films I've picked have been very polarized,
Yeah.
but I just always like to understand why people don't like things because I know that I like these films because I don't know morbid curiosity or it's just I don't know. It's really bizarre. Like I thought fucking Hellraisers were boring. Like so, yeah. I think I wanted to know why Alec didn't like it. Just for his, because I understand Emmanuel's not going to like it because it's not a very nice film.
Mm.
Sure, that's understandable. I kind of knew this before I picked it. Why it actually got picked. Just like Alex like horrible films and it's got like the same thing like some of the what was it the Tale of Two Sisters, but that wasn't a very nice film, but he liked like that and I just kind of wanted to know why he didn't like it. But yeah,
I don't think he said too much about it, to be fair. I think most of the week he was complaining about Psycho.
Wasn't it this? I think I got the impression in this case it was just the characters making stupid decisions more than anything else.
well,
That's the only thing I could think of what it would be.
but the thing is, that's more of a rational thing to think. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's like any film. If someone makes a mistake, you think, "Oh, why did they do that?" When if you're in that situation, I don't know, you don't know what's going to happen, so you're not going to make a rational thought. It's like, okay, you wouldn't go into someone's house, but if you didn't know what was going to happen, yeah, it's a lot of foreshadowing, which is I understand, like slasher films, everyone makes stupid decisions, and that's the trope of horror films. But in this, they're just silly, they're stupid teenagers that pick the wrong house to go in, which is okay. I can't really complain. It's not the smartest thing to do, but I'm not going to bitch about it.
Yeah. But I do think that the one thing that this does have over other slashers is just like, I don't know, man, that noise. I know I keep saying it, but I just think it's so effective because I don't know. Leatherface is already like quite a scary looking guy, and like obviously he's quite big and he's got like a face that looks a bit like Sloth from Goonies, and like so he's like already an intimidating guy. But when you add that layer, when you add that layer of just like every time you see him, it's just like man.
I hope no one picks that.
What the Goonies?
The Goonies.
Yeah.
I think the Goonies is better when you're a kid, to be honest. Like now, I find it quite stressful.
Well, like I
Yeah.
said, like I watched it for the first time a few months ago, and I thought it was utter rubbish.
I wouldn't say it's that, but it's certainly a bit overrated for me. Maybe it's because I never really latched onto it, like some of the films that Spielberg produced. It doesn't have. It's not one of the best ones, in my opinion.
I thought it was great when I was a kid, and then I watched it again a few weeks ago, and I was like, man, this is a lot of kids making a lot of noise.
Hey, you guys!
I'd say it's on the same par as Hook.
Yeah, maybe.
I suppose so, but
it's
I
got
do
that
like
kind
Hook.
of
I have
feel.
a soft spot for that one.
Hotspot.
Hotspot, yes.
But it's, I don't know. I don't mind the Goonies. It's just, it's kind of Indiana Jones with kids.
I suppose, but I think Indiana Jones is more exciting and more like tense and
yeah. No, but I mean like the adventure aspect.
The potential, yeah, I know what you mean.
It's
that
kind of
aspect
got
of it
that
is-
kind of Tintin kind of they're going on an adventure.
Yeah, it's an adventure film, which The Mummy did very well as well. It's got that style.
Oh, I might pick that.
What Goonies?
The original Mummy.
The
okay.
original Mummy.
Was
I
that
really
like
like that
50s
as a
or
kid.
something?
I think it's got some really good bits. I don't know how the story would hold up, but
It will be. I know it is dated, but it still was ahead of its time.
it's still like got some for a kids. What's that? It was a kids film.
What, The Mummy?
Yeah.
Well, I suppose it's a monster movie, so I don't think kids were allowed to see it.
Because it's got some pretty grim parts.
In more depth.
Like the fact that when the bugs go in his body, they go under his skin.
Oh, Dan, if you pick it soon, it's showing again at the Prince Charles Cinema.
Nice.
Rob
So,
just wants to go to Prince Joel Cinema, don't you?
Yeah.
I'll go alone.
Yeah. So Texas Chainsaw Massacre. My only issue was if it was a bit slow at some points. Like I was getting a bit like, okay, you've done enough. I don't know if it was because I was tired or I just kind of, it kind of got a bit sludgy, and then then Leatherface come in and chopped up the bloke in the wheelchair, and I was like, whoa! It kind of woke me up a bit. I was like, fuck! I'm just gonna keep going on about that scene because it's just so fucking impactful. But yeah, it's a solid film. I definitely want to watch it again.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good. It's an acquired taste. That's all I say. As a like you want some thrills and you want some like, oh, that's disgusting. It's perfect. Like I think a lot of horror fanatics, it's like probably one of their favorite films, and I think I can understand why. It kind of spawned countless other films, and it kind of was the benchmark for monster films or slasher monster films, basically. But yes, do you want to know the comparisons between the film and the
Go for it.
So basically, in Psycho, you've got Ed Gein had a thing about his mum. It's got a name. It's like a weird relation, like a sexual relationship with the opposite sex parent. Fucking weird. But basically, he was fixated with his mum. So what he did was he made a bodysuit out of women's skin, and he would wear it. They said that basically what he would do is he'd go out into his garden and run with the bodysuit on and a mask. And he'd put the female genitals over the top of his genitals.
Oh, what?
But yeah, so the connection in Psycho is basically he's got the fixation with his mother, and also the house that Ed Gein lived in was one in Psycho was modelled on. So it was like because he lived on a farm. So yeah, the house in Psycho was modelled on the farmhouse. And then
That's cool.
So in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, pretty much the whole house they was living in with like those lampshades and like the bits of bits of dead people in his house, like in one room, he made lampshades. He made it like the bodysuit. I think he had, I said about the skull that he'd eat his breakfast from, but he had like different bits of body parts of people like in the house. It was pretty grim because they were saying about when they went to arrest him and they went in the house, they found all these bits, and the bloke was so traumatized that he died. He'd kind of was so disgusted and shocked and horrified by the scene that he had a heart attack, or he died of heart failure like just afterwards. So yeah, like in with Leatherface wearing the mask and like so that's like the connections between the real life person. Yeah.
Interesting, because when I started like doing a bit more research, and Alec asked Ebony about him as well, because apparently she's like serial killers is something that she's interested in for some reason. And,
Alec is one of them.
But yeah, no, I started thinking like maybe it would have been better if like the two films were mashed together, like if you were looking for something specifically about Ed Gein. But yeah.
See, that's where like when I've looked at a bit of the film Deranged, and in that film the premise is the bloke it's like a mix of the two films. So he's got like he's like mentally handicapped or something, but he's got this fixation about women. So he digs up the dead bodies of the women, and he's got like in his house, he's got all these dead people around the table. And like at the end of the film, he actually kills someone, and then he puts their body in. It's that film. It looks complete trash, and it was about the same time as Texas Chainsaw Massacre, about 74, 73, something like that. But yeah, that's got more the two elements with it. But yeah, and then what's it called? What's the like Buffalo Bill? He has a skin suit, doesn't he? He gets a female skin suit. I've never watched it, but I know the premise.
You haven't seen Silence of the Lambs?
And yeah, it's one of them things where it was like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I was always a bit scared of watching it.
I suppose Dan doesn't like watching horrors until 20 years have gone by.
But the thing is, I understand.
For this.
But yeah, like understandably, like you don't watch them as kids because they're not made for kids. They're scary films, or they're quite horrific films. So yeah, so I never really watched it because that had like the fucking synonymous thing with the Anthony Hopkins bites. Doesn't he bite the tongue off one of the nurses or something?
Oh fuck.
Yeah. So like, there's the bits in it. I was like, oh fuck. But now I'm actually interested in the films. It doesn't phase me anymore. So yeah. So yeah. That's pretty much it about Ed Gain and the two films that were inspired by him.
That's what you call gains.
He
I
was
think this is a good double bill, man. Because like even outside of the Ed Gein stuff, like it was pretty cool to watch, like the film that started the genre as well as the film that started like the golden age of the genre. And it was really interesting watching the two of them back to back, thinking that there was only 14 years between them.
yeah. And they're vastly different as well.
Yeah.
One's more like a social commentary on someone's mental health, and the other one is basically like a situational kind of day in a life fucked up situation, which is they work so well. Like, yeah, it's yeah. I didn't really. I only kind of picked them because of the serial killer kind of aspect. But yeah, when you think about it, they are like the the swan song of that genre. It's But the other thing about Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it was like it had a like with Vietnam, it was kind of showing the horrors of Vietnam as well. So it had that kind of connection. Like the people in Vietnam, like they like the horrors they saw and how it affected them. And that's kind of what Tobe, is it Tobe Hopper? Tobe Hooper. Yeah, he's kind of, that was the idea behind it as well. It was kind of showing you the horrors of like what happened in Vietnam as well.
Yeah.
So it's kind of got like this kind of social commentary as well. So yeah. I don't know if they ate people in Vietnam. I know the Vietnamese did really horrible things. Like my brothers told me about stuff they did because my brother's really into Vietnam, and he told me about like what the Vietnamese used to do to the American soldiers, and it was just like, what, like how do people do this to other people? Like yeah, it's just human condition and the human race of, yeah, they're pretty fucking, what people can do to people is pretty sick. And I think that's what kind of fascinates me with like this kind of thing. It's kind of like, why do people do this? Like, what makes a person physically cut someone up or butcher them or do this kind of thing? It's just so fucking alien to like you, to a normal person. And it's also thinking about like PTSD. And I remember watching a video about like this soldier was talking about PTSD, and basically what it is, your brain, it's when you witness something that your brain knows it shouldn't, like something that's so out of the ordinary that your brain just has a coping mechanism, and it's PTSD. So you get PTSD, and it's your brain's kind of coping mechanism to seeing something that you shouldn't, you physically shouldn't see, or you can't comprehend how bad it is. So your brain just goes no, and then you have like flashbacks, or you have these different things, and it kind of affects you mentally quite badly. But yeah, it's just, I really find the human condition quite interesting. But yes, that's pretty much it. Now you know I'm a weirdo. I like horror films about people that kill people, and my mum never understands why I watch them. Like, you're gonna watch that film because I gather in that time period, my mum was probably in that period when it was actually come out in the cinema.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, I was talking to my mum about like film club today, actually, and like I said that like one of the films that we watched this week was Psycho, and like her immediate reaction was like, "Oh no, you can't watch that. That's too much." Like, and like she can't even finish The Birds. So like it's and I don't know. It's just like a different standards between generations, isn't it? Because like we're all we're so used to like all of this like hugely like violent gore and like all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, if you were actually around back then these films really would have been like really shocking.
Yeah, because like my mum and dad, I think they went to the cinema and saw Clockwork Orange. That shows you how old my mum and dad are.
But didn't they go and see Close Encounters of the Third Kind?
I'm not sure. I know
my mum
when
did.
my mum tells me this story every time I talk about Star Wars.
Hmm.
They went to see the original one at the cinema and she fell asleep.
Really?
She said she saw the start credits. Was it the start credits? And then that was it. So my mum completely fell asleep. But that was the same year they got married. So fuck. But yeah, I don't know. It's a bit like us having like notorious films in our generation. It's probably the same for people like like grew up in the 70s or grew up in the 60s. There's going to be no notorious films then, but now we have a different perspective. It's kind of like, okay, yeah, I've seen that a million times in all these other films, so it's not really that shocking.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, when you've watched all the Friday the 13th films, you ain't surprised by anything anymore. That's why I find them funny, because you see all this stuff and you're just like, okay, I'm desensitized. It's really funny because I don't like watching like supernatural films, because I find them to be a bit dumb. Like
they can be, yeah.
It's one of them tropes where it's like, oh, like like the Nun and
the country films,
Annabelle.
Yeah,
they rely on jump scares, and that's all the film is. It's, oh, we're going to build the tents. Oh, the jump scare. That's it. And it's just like, that's not really a film. You're just.
The thing is, like a film like Annabelle doesn't even need to do that because the doll itself is creepy enough.
Exactly.
And yeah, that's why the first Conjuring is really good, because it, even though there are jump scares in it, the story is interesting enough to keep you like enthralled about what the characters go through. That's what you need to worry about.
Yeah, that's the thing, and because it's the whole thing of, okay, we've got a formula that works. We're gonna make 10 of the same thing. Because people are, and it's really shit. Because people are loyal, they'll go and see a film. So it's like, oh, we're gonna make another Star Wars film. Yeah, we really love Star Wars. We're gonna go and see Star Wars. Oh, this film's shit. Okay, they're gonna make another one. Oh yeah, we're gonna go and see that. It's the same thing with any of these horror films. They got the same format, similar story. They just make them because people will go and see them, even if they're shit. People don't care, and it's kind of dilutes everything, because then you get like 8 fucking films in a series, and you're like, I'm a bit fucking done with this. And it's funny enough, saying about that, I didn't realize Psycho had a sequel, but it was 24 years later.
Just like Tuco.
2 years later, they made a sequel to it. I don't understand why the fuck you'd make a sequel.
Remake was questionable enough, but a sequel.
And I think it was an 80s thing where they made loads of sequels of things. Because just look at how many Halloween.
Yeah, I mean, if Jaws got a sequel, it makes sense they do a Psycho sequel, right? Because it's like, oh, Norman Bates is still alive. There's still potential there.
24 years later.
Andy Perkins was in it as well.
See, that says it all. Then they managed to get him back.
And Oz Perkins, which I assume is his son, maybe.
No, you mean the bloke who played Norman Bates?
Yeah.
No, it was actually the same actor.
There's somebody credited as well called Oz Perkins. Yeah, it's Anthony Perkins' son.
But yeah, he reprises the role as Norman Bates. I'm just like,
Oh, I bet what it is. Right, so Oz Perkins is 48. So at the time he would have been a teenager. So I guess there's like some kind of like flashback sequence, and you see him as a kid.
probably. I don't know. It just sounds
Mm.
awful when you make a sequel that long after the original.
Mhm.
Like even I think the second Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I think that's in the 80s.
I think it would have been, yeah.
Yeah, so it's one of these fucking things that they just went, oh yeah, this was really iconic. We're gonna make a film about it.
Yeah,
Oh,
1986. Which would have been 2 years after Psycho 2, I guess.
I think it was a thing in the 80s, just making sequels.
It's the thing now as well.
Yeah.
Sequels and remakes.
Or sequel remakes. Like
They talk about that in the new Scream, didn't they? They call it like a requel, I think it is.
Recall. That's it. That's the word.
Because they did it. Texas Chainsaw Massacre did it. Halloween has done it.
It worked with Scream though.
Oh, I don't know.
I've not
I
seen
think
it.
it was the best version of it. Like I really enjoyed the newest one.
Yeah, it had a lot of going for it compared to some of the Scream sequels, I'd say.
So,
Yeah, I didn't think it was awful, but I was just like, I'm not sure there's any point in this.
But recalls really pissed me off. It's like if you're doing a sequel or reboot, don't call it the same thing. That's so funny. Especially Halloween.
Rob, the reason why they do it is so they can reboot the series so they can make more films.
Yep, and that's a bad reason.
That is
It's a
terrible.
term for the TikTok generation.
And you know what really fucks me off? Okay, they made the next Chainsaw Massacre film, which is the sequel to the first one. Okay, dog shit.
Okay.
Why the fuck would you make another film? It's supposed to be a sequel, so you can make more films, and you make it so shit that no one wants to fucking have anything to do with it. It just doesn't make any. It's like, oh yeah, we got the rights to this. We're gonna make our own film about it. It's like, no, don't make films anymore. You're not allowed.
You know, I think the whole film of the sequel is actually on YouTube.
Wow.
The new one.
No, the original. Well, see, that's how bad it is. Is it? We're going, oh, what the new sequel is? I know.
No,
Oh,
you mean
it's
the remake.
I've got lost track because there's the remake and then the sequel and then
the newest one on Netflix is a requel.
Yeah, so it's basically a sequel to the original film that takes away all the other films that they made.
So they ignore the original sequel. It's basically what Halloween did.
Yep.
There's a really funny scene in the Netflix one where there's a picture of the final girl and like she's like behind the bar in this place, and somebody walks in and they point at the picture and they go, "Oh, what happened to her?" And the barman's like, "She's been looking for Leatherface for nearly 40 years." And then she goes, "Oh, did she find him?" And he goes, "He was wearing a mask." It's like, Jesus Christ.
Of someone else's face. Totally would get thrown off by it.
It's like 40 years and you couldn't get past that
This is
mask.
this is what happens when you make a Netflix film.
Yeah, it's awful.
I just don't understand. I don't know. I think it's just because they know people go and see it because they're fans of the franchises.
There's a scene in it actually that I think you would find really cringy. So like Leatherface is on a bus and then loads of people start like streaming it on like TikTok or Instagram or whatever. And then the camera angle changes to like as if you're watching it on one of those things. And it's just
Yeah, I've seen that. And he starts the chainsaw up and then it cuts away and there's all blood everywhere.
It's so bad.
It's just I don't know. This is my complaint about these films. People have these ideas of just rinsing it because it's a popular franchise. But I'd say one of a good remake or reimagining is the the Saturday film they made in 2003.
Oh,
Because, okay, it's not like the original ones, but it makes more sense. It's like they've made it more real compared to it being, oh yeah, it's this man who's a zombie and he's killing teenagers with the most creative way of doing it. Literally in the film, it's so brutal what happens. And it's like, okay, this is a bit more believable. Like the whole thing about him teleporting, they make a reason how he actually can move around really fast. And I was like, that's fucking clever. Why can't they do this? Yeah, I don't know if it did very well, but it's definitely a worth watching. There's actually a really cool scene in it where he's on the roof and the bloke goes to the bloke's at the door. So the policeman's at the door and Jason jumps down off the roof, but it's filmed from the side. He jumps down and he stabs him. I think it's through the eye, through the door or something. But yeah, he's on the roof and you see him jump down and it's all on the side plane. And I was like, that's a really cool scene.
That's the only thing that I don't like about the slasher genre now, is it's just like who can get the most inventive kill, and it's like, I don't know. I think
there should be more to it than that.
Oh no, there's so many like budget ones. I wouldn't say budget ones, but there's like so many different fucking variations. They just churn them out.
Yeah.
Like fucking. Ugh. No ways like some weird catch where it's like, oh, this man's a tree. He's really angry. It's like,
you ain't a tree in Evil Dead, then you're not worth it.
That's a very bad tree. But no, they've always got some kind of like mask or they've got some deformity or some stupid shit, and they're always really fucking strong. It doesn't make any fucking sense. But that's yes. Well, I think we're done. I'm done.
And good.
But yeah, it was a good chat. Give you some fun facts about Leatherface not being able to wear a different shirt.
All the different chainsaws.
I think there was a thing about the people in the film were so fucking traumatized because it was so hot. So
really?
Delirious. So like the reactions of the woman was probably quite true because I think it was stupidly hot and they basically made her do all these scenes where she's like getting chased and she kind of went a bit loopy because it was the 70s was brutal for filmmaking.
Yeah, it was.
Yes. But yes, on that night.
I suppose I better announce my pick then.
I wonder what it is.
Picking Transformers.
I've actually since I told you what I was going to pick, I've changed my mind.
You're not
we can foresee, or is it something completely unexpected?
Oh no! So I told you.
Oh.
But yeah, no, I told Dan that I was going to pick something else on Saturday or Sunday last week. But the thing is, right? So I realised that my pick lines up really nicely with something, and the thing that it lines up really nicely with is that on Friday this week is the UK release of Nope. So to celebrate Jordan Peele's new film, I'm going to pick his first film. I'm going to pick Get Out.
Yeah.
I
was going to pick that at some point. I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, oh.
Yeah, I was going to pick it before you, so there.
And I also think as well, this is actually a really good time to pick it because now we've had the film that basically started the slasher genre, and then the film that started the golden age of slasher films, and now we've got like a modern revival of horror as a genre. So
a good revival.
A good horror, yes.
Plus, Rob wants to win the round again.
Oh, yeah. It's a good
yeah, he wants to steal it from Alex, like grasp, just like 1 point.
I'm I'm not sure it's going to beat Alex Film. To be honest, like Alex Film is like pretty huge.
Well, I think Pat can beat it though. If you can't,
What film is it?
Oh,
Oh,
better
I'll say
wait
yeah.
for it.
oh,